Lakers just because I do like playing on teams whose superstar players don't play. We've seen it 1,000 times. A little bit of a letdown from Indiana's standpoint. The other guys get to play. I guess the Pacers will win, but it's a big enough number 5 where you have a decent chance of the Lakers maybe losing but still covering the spreads. Well, you're right, though, as far as the props go. Let's see who's playing for the Lakers. Let me check their starting lineups. They're just getting underway, and we'll kind of see how the game progresses, who's doing what, who's scoring, and who's not playing. Because, like I said, it's really 3 guys. I know it's only technically 2, but you got to remember, AD would be starting, but he's no longer with the team. His replacement, Luka, obviously is not playing, and then you got LeBron not playing. So you got 2.5 players that normally would be there, if you want to call it that, not in there. So let's check out the Lakers for a quarter or so, and then we can kind of see and go from there. So that's what we do in game live. So it's a pretty good number. I will say the other game, 65-48, Dallas over the, like I said, all of a sudden slumping Houston Rockets. They've lost 5 in a row. AD, as we mentioned, right? What a great, if you could bottle this up, it's almost like this is why we don't trust. I won't say don't like, because that's not right. We don't trust AD. This is why we mock the Mavericks, right? Because he scored 24 points and 13 rebounds in a half. So why would we mock the Mavericks for doing that, Scott? Because he's going to end up with 30-plus points and probably close to 20 rebounds, right? But then the next game, he's going to have 7 points and 3 rebounds. Or the next game, he's not going to play because he, supposedly is hurt or he's sore. I mean, the good AD, yeah, that's a fair trade. Absolutely. But you don't get that with Anthony Davis, Joe. You get the guy that's capable of doing what he's doing today, but more times than not, or at least half the time, he just doesn't show. He's an enigma. He's very frustrating to watch.
He really is. So we're looking at AD right now, 24 points, Scott, live numbers of 26.5 and to the over for him, coming in at -108. Now, are we seeing PJ Washington out there because he was expected to get back in the lineup? I'm not seeing him listed anywhere. That game, I just don't have on. I'm going to have to change the channel here. I've got a couple of hockey games on right now, but Kyrie Irving is out on the court. He's only been able to put up 2 points. His numbers dropped all the way to 12.5. Can he go over that one, or is he just feeding AD out there? Because 12.5 is so low for Kyrie out there. Let's just see how many assists he currently has on the board. I'm seeing he's got 3 assists so far, so he's feeding out there. We'll see. Can he get those points on the board? Because 12.5, it's so low.
Yeah, that is really low, right? It's funny. You go for 24 first half, and then maybe AD. I was kind of guessing in my mind, what would his number be? And I figured it's right around half of that, half of his first half total. So that's kind of in line. There's a chance he might not actually get to 37, especially if it remains a blowout. But so Kyrie would be the one where I think they, kind of flip roles here second half, and AD proved what he could do. Now it's Kyrie's turn to score a little bit. Maybe they did shift their defense a little bit and concentrate a little bit more on AD. So the 12.5, yeah, that's not too bad. And even the assists, you think, I would have thought it would have been more than that, right? 65 points. I would have figured he had at least 4, if not 5 or 6, to tell you the truth. The fact he only has 3 is kind of amazing to me. So is he going to double that? It's probably one or the other, right? You either pick his assists or you pick his point total. I'm probably more confident in his point total. I mean, you could get 3 assists by accident, but I think I think Kyrie's going to score a little bit. So I wouldn't have an issue with him getting 12.5 points total, since he's already got 2. So
absolutely. And I think a couple of those can come from the threes too, Scott. You can get him for 2 plus 3. You have to hit one. It's coming in at +150. So that is down from his original opening number. I believe it was 3.5 for his threes. So I do like the 2 plus 3s at +150.
All right, we got one hockey game on. The next one doesn't start till 7 o'clock, so before we get to the big college basketball slate, Bruins scored again, 2-0 over Vegas. I tell you, 12-3 is Boston against Vegas. Again, they've been pretty good, but that's dominating at home. 8-3 against Vegas overall, so it's been on both sites. Vegas only 3-9 their last 12, Joe. They've been slumping now for a couple of weeks, can't get out of their own shadow. They were favorites heading into this game, obviously not anymore. 5-1 underrun were the Golden Knights as well. Still get them, I say still, but -350 Bruins, +255 Vegas, or Vegas maybe a goal and a half even money if you think they're going to come back. It's only midway through or late first period, 5 minutes left to go in the first.
I can't see them coming back in this one, Scott. You said it. You said those inconsistencies of Vegas. And we look at the inconsistencies versus the Boston Bruins. They've only won 3 of the last 11 meetings. You look at this team, and they have been playing strong defensively, and Aiden Hill's been great in goal, but it's Samsonov in goal today. And then you got Swayman on the other side here for Boston. Boston at home has been so strong this season, 18-8-3 on the season, and they were the dog in this one. While you look at Vegas, 13-11-3 on the road. This isn't a spot where I ever wanted to back Vegas, especially with their odds against the Bruins. The Bruins just have their number. So I think this is all about the Bruins in this game. I think you have missed the best of the number. Now, that being said, now up 2-0. The Bruins still on that puck line, laying 1.5 or -114. I could see Vegas putting up some goals in this one, but I'm not getting the value I want yet. If we get a +2.5 for the Vegas Golden Knights, yeah, I'll look at that. But +1.5, I don't want to touch it, Scott.
Yeah, 4-11. Now they did beat the Devils. I will say that their last time out did Vegas, but still 4-11 their last 15 games. They're lucky they're still right only 2 behind Edmonton in the Pacific Division. All right, in-game live, hour number 1 continues here on the Grid.
Who we pulling for? Who we looking to win this game?
I picked Buffalo over Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and I was wrong. I'm picking Philly. Philly has the better roster, but Kansas City just knows how to win, especially one-score games. But I think Saquon, like he's been the difference all year, Kansas City has to prove to me they can stop him.
Absolutely.
They can stop him, stop that O-line, and not have Jalen have to throw it 40 times.
Only on SportsGrid.
It was the greatest show ever. It's funny, and you know what I like? You have balls. I mean, the stuff you do on that show, you are half crazy.
I feel like a good sense of humor, and I like to show it off. And this kind of originally started where people were, the hot dog eating challenge was something that I always wanted to do, and every 4th of July, and I was like, I could eat a ton of hot dogs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. It's finally here. The big game is just days away, and SportsGrid is live from New Orleans all week long, bringing you the latest news, insights, and analysis from the biggest names in the game. And on game day, we've got you covered all day long with expert picks, live odds, and everything you need to make the most out of the biggest game of the year. Don't miss a second, and it's all happening only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. In-game live, game day here on the Grid. Scott and Joe, hour number 1. Talk a little hockey. We went to break. Vegas down 2-0. We put the kiss of death on them. And what happens? Naturally, they score. So now they're down 2-1 in the first period. 4.5 minutes left. Over-under's now at 7.5. This may be one of those games where we just get a ton of goals. Who knows? Because that's a pretty low number, all things considered, since it's still in the first period, Joe. You still got 4 minutes plus. So you could easily get one more goal out of this thing. I kind of like the over there, 7.5. It might just, one of these crazy games. So Boston -180, Vegas down to +140. I think I'm going to take a stab on the over 7.5. There's my first official play. Over 7. Well, actually, no. The assists there actually probably were. So, but first official play in hockey. Over 7.5. Boston and Vegas. I think we get a shootout up in Beantown tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get that as well. You just saw Vegas score on that power play. Boston cannot find themselves in the box in this game because that was just way too easy for the Vegas Golden Knights to put that goal on the board. So they hit Swayman so hard in this one, with that goal. It was just absolutely beautiful. So 7.5 to the over, coming in at plus 100. Scott, I do like it. If you had both teams to score in the first period or the over 1.5, this is definitely nice money, as this one had a total of 5.5 coming into this game, Scott. So the books weren't expecting a lot of points or a lot of goals in this one, but they're definitely going to be coming in. I love the over 7.5 as well.
All right, a little college basketball, a great day as you would expect, as we normally get on Saturdays here. Number 1 Auburn at home against number 6 Florida. 11 minutes left to go. High-scoring game so far, 20-13. Auburn leads Florida, laying 13.5. It was 9.5 to start the game, so it's a little bit higher than that. Over-under is 158.5, which was a point or so higher than what the original line was. I'll tell you, this series is really dominated by Florida, 15-5. Last 20 meetings straight up, 17-3 against the spread last 20 versus Auburn as well. Gators heading into the game, 13-4 against the spread run. That's pretty nice. Auburn's won 12 straight at home. They haven't covered all those. Did like the under, 9-1 under between these two teams last 10 matchups, no matter where they're playing. Don't like betting against Auburn, but I think that 13.5 is not a bad number, knowing that Florida's had a pretty good history against the Tigers. And I still think somewhere along the line, things are going to slow down here a little bit. And I like the under 158.5 in the game, Joe.
Okay, we're just a little bit on different pages here. I love Florida plus the 13.5 that you're getting right now. Actually, it just dropped down to 11.5 as Florida did put another basket on the board. This is 20-16. So I still think Florida plus the 11.5 that you're getting is where I would go in this one. I just think Auburn's defense is in for a little bit of regression here. So I did look at this one to go over. The number 157.5 coming in. Now live number is 160.5. We're getting to the point where I'd be looking to hedge my bet. If I'm getting a 162.5, Scott, because of all of those trends you did say about these teams really going to that under, I do think it will stay under 162.5, but at this point, we're still getting 161.5. So I want a couple more points out here and a little bit better value, but I do think ultimately it finishes right around 158 points in this game. So just over that 157.5 that we were originally getting. I do like Walton Clayton, how strong he has been out there for Florida. As long as he is able to hit from beyond the arc, I do think Florida keeps it tight.
All right. Yeah, I think they will as well. So hopefully, final 5-6 minutes, they slow the ball down a little bit, knowing every possession is worth that much more. If it's a blowout, then I got a feeling the game is going to go over. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Another game, 2 ranked teams, number 15 Missouri hosted number 10 Texas A&M. They are late first half, 38-29. A&M actually leads. They were an underdog, about 3.5 or so point underdog. Now they're a 4.5 point favorite. Over under 145.5. 11-3 under is the series. I like the under in this one as well. Missouri, 8-1 against the spread their last 9. They've won 15 straight home games. They've lost 5 in a row. I will say that to A&M at home. But I thought Missouri was going to win. I still think they will. I take them plus the points, and I did like the under just because that 11-3 under, and it's right around where the number was, 143.5.
I love this. I love the situation we're in because we are seeing that home favorite down at the halftime, Scott. So you can grab them plus the 4.5 at minus 106, but I'm with you. I think Missouri should be able to pull out the win. They're plus 200 here on that money line to get the win. And you look at this team, they're stronger offensively at home. Texas A&M's defense really does decline out there on the road. Give me Missouri at plus 200, Scott.
All right, there you go. Not bad. So just a couple of games. We've got a bunch of more. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com, will join us next. We'll do some more college news with him and some Super Bowl talk from Steve here on the Grid.
Let's talk about Philly and Kansas City. They're here again 2 out of the last 3 years. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm a big Andy Reid fan, and it's hard to go against what he's been able to accomplish.
Okay.
That being said, there's a lot of storylines in this game. You know, you look at Saquon and what he's been able to do this year.
Crazy.
It's wild. But if he's able to do what he's done throughout the playoffs, they'll be hard to beat.
Only on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass on the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes, end of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in-game live game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, hour number one, talking some college basketball, little NBA, some hockey, little Super Bowl talk as well. We'll do it all with our next guest, Steve Merrill. Check out all his plays, all his picks, his home, wagertalk.com. That is wagertalk.com. What's going on, Steve? How are you this afternoon?
I will cover all those but hockey. I was a huge Capitals fan in the 80s and the 90s, and they broke my heart so many times in elimination games, the Penguins and the Rangers, and
Islanders, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, they're not my Washington Commanders. They're still my Capitals. I did get on the bandwagon in the final game of the Eastern Conference and when they won the Stanley Cup a few years ago. Felt guilty about doing that because I hadn't followed them for about 15, 20 years. And I was like, screw that. I paid my dues in the late 80s, early 90s when they were terrible. When they were mediocre. They were just good enough to get your hopes up. Mediocre is the worst. You'd rather just be terrible.
Right. Yeah, they're good this year, actually, though.
I saw that. They had like the best record of the league. Like, this is how little I follow it. I didn't know they had like the best record of the league a few weeks ago. I looked it up. I thought they were like a bottom half team. At least they were a couple years ago when I'd looked. So, what's with that?
Yeah, they've really been stepping up. Ovechkin looking to hit Wayne Gretzky's record. So, this season is absolutely – it's the season you want to jump back on, Steve, and really be a Capitals fan. I think you should.
I've got an authentic actual game jersey, Joe. You'd love it. It's got the Velcro strap in the back. This is from like the late 90s. So you know it's the real deal because it's got the strap in the back of the jersey. Most non-hockey players probably don't know. You know, that's what they strap to the pants there so they can't pull it over your head when you're in a fight. This is how they did it in the 90s. At least nobody fights anymore either. It's another reason I stopped watching hockey.
Yeah, it's gotten soft. It really has gotten soft. Let's talk a little college basketball. Let me throw a couple games at you that finished before we get to the games that are going on or yet to start. Your concern level, Steve, with Kansas losing again today, 81-73. They're now 16-7. They were favorites on the road. They probably at this point have no business being favorites anywhere, especially on the road. But are we ready to write off Kansas as far as trying to pick a national championship winner?
Yeah. Kansas is just not a great team. And I've done I didn't have anything in that game today, but I do a top 25 video every week for wagertalk.com, wagertalk TV. And I had 6 games. I actually made it a top 30 video today for Saturday. We had 3 top 25s and 3 additional games that just missed the cut. And Kansas was not in that rotation today. But I have talked about them a lot in recent weeks. And one thing that jumps out to me about Kansas when I analyze them, they don't step up well in class. They've had struggles against the Class A teams out there. So, yes, Scotty, I would say that does not bode well for them come tournament time.
Any of the earlier games that do stand out to you that you were surprised by some of those outcomes?
Well, we're in conference play, of course, and nothing really surprises you anymore because a lot of these games are competitive ball games. One game which I did for that top 30 part of the video earlier today was the Michigan State game, because the reason it was a top 30 game is that Oregon had played their way out of the top 30, top 25 with 4 straight losses. So I thought that was an interesting start time for them because that was a 9 a.m. Pacific start, of course, at Michigan State. And we did see some steam come in on the Spartans. That game was 7.5 last night overnight when I put it out in the video, and went as high as 9.5 today. They won by 12. So Oregon now, 5 straight losses. Very careful with the falling knife there that looked like the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, that number was a little too high for me. I was going to all set to play Michigan State, and I really didn't even think of the noon angle, but it was just like, man, it was so high, and lo and behold, they ended up losing by double digits anyway. So first half score, great game. SEC, Auburn versus Florida, Steve. It's tied at 23. A moment ago when Joe and I were talking, Florida was getting 13.5 at one point when they were down 7, but that obviously was early on. Laying 9.5 to start. Auburn's down to 7.5 now. Any thoughts on this game?
Well, pregame, I thought maybe the over was worth a look. The pregame over was about 155. We're seeing, 45 points, a little more than halfway through. So we'll see where that pace is. But wouldn't be surprised if things open up in the second half. Problem, though, with an over now is that the game's tight. 23-22 Florida when I last checked. Tight games, they value the possessions more, slows things down. Florida, by the way, the SEC has 4 of the top 6 teams in the country right now, 5 of the top 10, but 4 of the top 6, including both Auburn and Florida. Really good conference this year. And you contrast that to the ACC, which has only 1 team in the top 25, and that's Duke. Clemson is actually 26. That was another one of those top 30 games I talked about. They're 21st in the coaches poll, but there's no question the SEC conference is loaded. I think these teams will continue to beat each other up. Only team to beat Auburn, by the way, this year is Duke. Duke's a really good team. The rest of that conference is not. But this game's probably going to go down to the wire. I liked it over pregame as an opinion. I use that in my video. But this tight, low-scoring first half definitely gives you some cause for concern for a shootout now.
Okay, well, we definitely need to hear what you're liking between Duke and Clemson before we finish up here. But right now we're at the half between Texas A&M and Missouri. Now, Missouri was a 4.5-point favorite coming into this game. They are down 38-29. You can now grab them plus the 4.5 or plus 196 on the money line. Did you have anything going into this? Did you think Missouri could get the win here at home?
Yeah, I did like Missouri in this game. Obviously not looking good at this point for the cover, but I think they're probably a pretty good second half play. I liked them pregame. So if you didn't get in pregame, now you're getting a much better number with Missouri. I thought this was a good bounce back spot at home, and I don't think this one's quite over yet. Definitely look for them to cut into that margin.
Any other games, Steve, going on that jump off the page for you before we get to the games later on tonight?
Yeah, nothing in game here, but definitely we'll touch on that Duke-Clemson game that Joe mentioned. That's another one of those top 30-ish games, as I said, and that goes later tonight. I think that's like a 6 o'clock Eastern start, national TV, of course. And Duke is by far the superior team in this conference, as I mentioned. Clemson probably the second best team. Just not sure they have the upset potential in this game. Clemson, not a great three-point shooting team, and Duke's defense this year has been fantastic around the perimeter. I think that actually translates maybe to an under. This line overnight when I first did it for the video was 134.5. It's now down to 133.5. I still think we have some wiggle room with the under in this game. Duke is a very good offensive team, but they're top-notch defensively as well. I'm just not sure Clemson's going to be able to score easily in this matchup.
Is there any players that you want to look at? Like, would you look at Cooper Flagg to be able to have a strong performance in this game, or are you staying off player props for this one?
Yeah, I don't even delve into the college player props. I mean, most states here in the U.S. don't even allow them, and the markets are so thinly traded. Come maybe tournament time, NCAA tournament time, we might start looking at them a bit. But I think it's a lower scoring game, probably. I like the under. That would probably translate to some player props under as well.
How about Alabama laying 5.5 against all of a sudden the resurging Arkansas John Calipari's, winning 2 in a row, including at Kentucky. Can they make it 3 straight at home, getting 5.5 against number 3 Bama?
Yeah, red hot Arkansas. They were a 10.5-point dog a week ago this last Saturday.
Yeah.
They go into Kentucky and they win the game outright. And you feel on the surface, that's just a terrible spot for them going forward. But they continue to play well. Alabama is an explosive team. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country once again this year. They're 8-1 in conference. Their only loss came to Ole Miss about a month ago. They do play Auburn still twice. They play them in a few weeks. Next Saturday, actually, a week from today, will be Auburn, Alabama. Will be one of the best games of the season. You do expect Arkansas to regress at some point. We all thought that was going to happen against Texas last Wednesday, and they go and beat them outright as a dog. Back-to-back big dog wins. Now on the road against one of the best teams in the country. It'd be Alabama. I'd lay it if you're going to play it. Bama or a pass for me in this one.
Okay, then what about the matchup between Ole Miss and LSU? We know these teams have already matched up, and we did see Ole Miss get a win by 12 points out there. They struggled with those rebounds, and they turned the ball over, and they were still able to win. And now they're only a 5.5-point favorite here versus LSU. Now they're on the road for this one. Do you have anything in this game for us, Steve?
I mean, Ole Miss is definitely the better team. They're about 50 spots higher in the net rating than LSU. But as we talk about in conference play, where things can happen, and this is a spot in which Ole Miss, not in great current form, despite beating Kentucky on Tuesday. Keep in mind, Kentucky had just lost as a double-digit favorite. They had lost 4 of their previous 5 games. So I do project probably about a 5-point win here for Ole Miss, but would not be surprised to see LSU pull the upset. That's what kept me away from this game. Ole Miss's defense has not been good. In fact, 2 of their worst defensive showings, including that Kentucky game, in the last 2.
All right, talking with Steve Burrow. We'll do some NFL talk. WagerTalk.com, always pick the talk with Steve NFL when we come back.
Let's talk about Philly and Kansas City. They're here again 2 out of the last 3 years. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm a big Andy Reid fan, and it's hard to go against what he's been able to accomplish. Okay. That being said, there's a lot of storylines in this game. You know, you look at Saquon and what he's been able to do this year.
Isn't it crazy?
It's wild. But if he's able to do what he's done throughout the playoffs, they'll be hard to beat.
Only on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and 4th down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes. End of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. In-game live game day here on the grid. Hour number 1, Scott and Joe talk with Steve Burrow. Check out all his picks, all his videos, include the Fade the Public video once again this week. We're talking a little NFL now with him as we got some college football, or college basketball rather, winners from him last segment. So, Steve, we'll start at the top. You know, Kansas City still laying 1.5, over under, pretty steady, 48.5. Your thoughts on tomorrow's Super Bowl?
Yeah, so I just released the Fade the Public video. It's on Wager Talk TV on YouTube. And, of course, you can find the link at wagertalk.com. And I do point out in that video that the public looks like they're going to be on the Eagles. Now, it's always tricky with the Super Bowl because a lot of money will come in tomorrow on Sunday. But some of the indicators I've looked at so far this week and leading indicators that I use for my data It does look like the public will be on the Eagles, and it's not really a public dog. I don't want to say, red flag alert, public dog as a 1-point dog, but I do find it a little strange that you're fading Kansas City in a straight-up win situation. I mean, I'm not a huge conspiracy guy, but after the Buffalo game, I started to believe a little bit more in the questionable calls. And also, Kansas City just finds a way to win. You've got one of the greatest coaches ever. Let's put this in perspective. When these teams played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, Andy Reid was already the all-time wins leader for both the Eagles and Chiefs franchises, and still is, of course. And also Patrick Mahomes, who's as good as anyone comes in close games. So hard to go against Kansas City in a close game. But with that said, if you look at the overall seasonal numbers, you probably could make a case the Eagles were the better team this year. They won their games by over 10.5 points on average. Chiefs won by about 4 points. You throw out that meaningless Denver finale, it's probably about 5.5. And, margin of victory, pretty equal schedule strength in the NFL, does mean something. And I saw a great stat from our friend Mark Lawrence, and Andy Isco, I think, pointed this out too. I mean, I haven't gone back and checked it, but I trust those guys. The team with the better straight-up record is now on a 1-17 ATS run in the Super Bowl. That would be the Chiefs. 5-13 straight up, but 1-17 against the spread. That's really incredible. So there are some reasons to like the Eagles, even though the public looks like they're backing them as well.
So looking at this game, I love exactly where you went there with your breakdown. What do you think of this total? 48.5. If the Kansas City Chiefs are to win this, do you think it stays under that total? Or are you looking at an over in this one, an Eagles win? Where are you going to go with that?
Yeah, first of all, these big games, Super Bowl, college football championships, games are normally higher scoring than the numbers might tell you. And one of the reasons, of course, in the 80s and 90s was we got the blowout factor in the Super Bowl. But the Buffalo-Kansas City game, high scoring last week, or 2 weeks ago. We saw that in the NFC title game as well. The game against the Rams got up and over it with the Eagles. So even though these teams have really good statistical defenses, they're still two good offensive teams. And I think the Chiefs' 23 points a game is a little misleading because they've gotten healthier and better in the second half of the season. And in meaningful games the past few weeks, they've put up some points as well. So wouldn't be surprised to see this game a little higher scoring than people think. I do think the public will come in the over tomorrow. It's currently 48.5. 49 is where it was earlier in the week or last week. 49 and 50 are dead numbers. About a 1% chance it lands on either one. 51 is a very key number, about a 3 to 4% chance. It probably doesn't get that high. 47 and 48 are semi-key numbers as well. A couple percentage chance it lands on either one. So I think the sharps who maybe like the under like they always do, and they're often wrong in these big games, have been pushing it down. I don't know if we'll ever see that key number of 48 or semi-key number. I think the public comes back in on the over this weekend and probably pushes it higher to 49. But look, nothing surprises me. We've seen some under moves in years past because the sharps can still move the market, even in the highly bet Super Bowl. But either way, I don't think the side or total are going to move more than a half a point or so tomorrow from the current numbers.
Yeah. I would say this, if you're going to bet the over, I would bet it now. I mean, if it goes down to 48 and you got it at 48.5, big deal. But it goes to 49, it's not a magic number, Steve, but it is 7 touchdowns plus. Now with 7 touchdowns, you got the over. If you get it at 49 or even 49.5, now you're going to need 7 touchdowns. You're going to need another score. So that's what I would suggest to anyone that wants to play the over anyway. And if you want to play the under, then maybe I would hold off on that. Any guys, you don't have to reveal any of your secrets here because you do want people to go to wagertalk.com. But as far as props go, any particular players you're kind of leaning towards if you don't give the actual prop out, but, who do you expect to have a big game tomorrow or, conversely not have a big game tomorrow?
Yeah, so, first of all, 33-minute video up there, so I don't mind giving some of the tidbits that I have in there because it's a big watch. So anybody wants to deep dive into tons of player props, side total, consensus data, Wager Talk TV, of course, on YouTube, that Fade the Public video. And I do highlight 3 guys in that video we can talk about. And by the way, I'm still working on my final prop report for my best bets. That'll be at wagertalk.com on Sunday. I will say, and I mentioned this in my public video, that most of my numbers show very little value with the over on any of the big name guys. In fact, it's neutral or under for me on almost all the big names. And that's not a surprise. The public loves to play over props. That's another tidbit. I'd say if you like an over prop, play it sooner than later. The line will probably be higher tomorrow on Sunday for Barkley rushing yards or anything like that. And let's start with Barkley. Hard for me to fade him. I get it. He's a superstar, and I don't like to fade superstars in big games. But the sharp money has already hit the under with this. It was 114.5. It's now down to 112.5 on his total rushing yards. I think there will be some buyback to the over with the public tomorrow. I actually would lean under just based on the contrarian angle here. And here's what's interesting. He gets over a lot of times because of those monster touchdown runs. Like he had a 60-yard run, I believe, in the championship game against the Commanders. And even with that run, when you look at his overall numbers, he had just 118 rushing yards despite a 60-yard touchdown run. His projection for longest run of the game is 24.5. That's a bettable prop. So as long as he doesn't break that, I think he can stay contained here. And technically the Eagles are the dog also, so it should be a close game. They probably aren't going to be winning throughout like they were in the Commanders game and some other games. So, if you want to fade the public with a prop, I think Barkley under 112.5 makes some sense.
Any thoughts here? Because we know the Kansas City Chiefs know they have to contain Barkley out there. What do you think this allows Jalen Hurts to be able to do? Would you be looking at more of him to use his arm out there or to use his legs?
Yeah, that actually transitions to something else. I mentioned on my Class A guys, it's all neutral or under. Well, I do find some value with the lower tier guys to the over. I think if you're looking to play some over props, you want to play the secondary players over. And even though Jalen Hurts is a big name, he is a secondary rusher. So that would make some sense. And keep in mind, he was the leading rusher for the Eagles 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. He had 70 yards on 15 carries, including a 28-yard breakout. No other player on the Eagles had more than 21 rushing yards 2 years ago. How crazy is that? And now they have the best running back in football. Keep in mind, Pacheco led the Chiefs 2 years ago, 76 rushing yards. Mahomes had 44. Last year, Patrick Mahomes was the leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So in the last 2 Super Bowls, either Mahomes or Hurts each year has been the leading rusher for their team. So that's not a bad angle to play, Joe, if you're looking for a little under the radar on rusher.
Good job, Steve. Check out all his picks. WagerTalk.com. Steve Burrell, thanks. We will do it again soon.
Let's talk about Philly and Kansas City. They're here again 2 out of the last 3 years. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm a big Andy Reid fan, and it's hard to go against what he's been able to accomplish. Okay. That being said, there's a lot of storylines in this game. You look at Saquon and what he's been able to do this year.
Crazy.
It's wild. But if he's able to do what he's done throughout the playoffs, they'll be hard to beat.
Only on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes. End of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Thanks again to Steve Merrill. Check out all his picks, all his plays. WagerTalk.com. Look for the Steve Merrill icon and then Fade the Public 30-minute video on the Super Bowl. Actually, you know what? Me and Ben Stevens did 2 hours on the Super Bowl, so he's got nothing on us, Joe. We could, you and I could do an hour on the Super Bowl. So stop bragging about 30-minute videos, Steve. just kidding. But there are a ton. I tell you, I'm at that point where it's like, okay, just play the game. It's just, I've done all the research, looked up all the trends. I got 50,000 trends to say one team, 50,000 to say the other. Don't worry about the trend. Like, don't bet a game because it's a trend, in the Super Bowl, because honestly, Joe, I do have more for Kansas City. I must admit that. But, there's enough for Philadelphia that if you wanted to do it based on a trend, I could give you 5 or 6 really good ones on Philadelphia. Probably 10 to 15 really good ones on Kansas City. There's not one that just like the epiphany. It is weird. Like he pointed out about the favorites going 1-16, or the team with the better regular season record is 1-16 or 1-17. I forget which one it is against the spread in the Super Bowl, which is really weird. But just know in general they're going to be favorites, right? So favorites in the Super Bowl have been horrible against the spread. So all they do with this stuff is, and I tell this on the podcast, they take the last 20 Super Bowls, or all the Super Bowls for that matter. They punch in all the numbers and all the stats and everything else, and then they just say, spit out what's the common denominator. And then they spit all these trends out and all these goofy things out. They're not winning or they're not losing because they had the best record in the NFL. Why would they, right? It's an anomaly. It's a fluky thing. But you could come up with 50 different categories, 100 different categories if you wanted to. Eventually, one of those categories is going to hit like 17 out of 18 times. So don't bet Philadelphia because Kansas City had the best record. Bet Philadelphia because you think they're going to win, and vice versa.
Absolutely. You can find a trend to back any way that you're looking for a team, Scott. If you dig deep enough, you really can. Like even looking at the ice today, the Carolina Hurricanes were wearing their alternate red uniforms. If you start digging into, trends like that, going into this game, they were 7-1-1 wearing those alternate uniforms. So anything you can find a trend, you can look to back a team some way or another. And I'm with you. I wouldn't back the Eagles for that trend unless you really do believe that they can come out and get the win. And like Steve said, then they have to beat the refs as well, which, Scott, you and I sat here in that game with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. And I went into that one saying, come on, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're getting their way because they're smarter about those calls. I really was trying to buy into that, believe that, but I tell you, some of those calls in that game with the Buffalo Bills, you've really got to question how they didn't get that first down, how they didn't get that pick in that game, because it looked like their defensive player had the ball. And, we saw those questionable calls. So can the Eagles play a smarter game here versus the Kansas City Chiefs is what it comes down to. They can't allow the Chiefs any opportunity to capitalize on their mistakes. They can't play a mistake, or they have to play a mistake-free game out there.
Yeah, it's going in, Joe, and this is what I was telling people when I said I think Philadelphia's going to win. I'm not going to bitch and complain if Philadelphia's in a close game and the official calls a play that's going to help Kansas City in the final minute or two. I know that's going to happen. I just know that. So stop complaining about it. If you take Philadelphia, as I am, I think Philadelphia is going to win. So there is no, official that's stepping in. Mm-hmm. Like that first down that wasn't a first down, right? What's lost in the fact is that Buffalo had 3rd and 1, didn't get a first down, and then the 4th and 1 and didn't get the first down. Like, don't have that happen. Get the first down on 3rd down by a yard or two so the officials don't get into play. Don't drop the ball like Dalton Kincaid did, Dalton Kincaid did, when they could have had a first down, and at worst they would have tied the game, but he drops the ball. Don't do the dopey little things that allow the officials to be able to step in and make a controversial call. Buffalo, they had 2 downs to get a stinking yard. They ran a quarterback creeper twice, with the worst quarterback sneak guy in the NFL for whatever reason. And they didn't get it, so they left it up to the officials to make the call. And you can't do that. You got to be able to really win the game. And I think they will. Here, case in point, teams that allow fewer points in the regular season, Philadelphia, 8-1 last 9 Super Bowls, right? Play Eagles, right? But teams that have more offensive yards in the regular season, Philadelphia, you would think they would be doing great, right? 2-11 straight up in the last 13 Super Bowls. The team with the better offense. These trends, they don't make any sense. They really don't. By hour number 2, coming up next.
even the great Nick Saban had to put his team together to do it his way. We know Coach Ryan's coming in to come run the offense, who was his right-hand man, a good friend of his at UW. And, now he's coming in. Everything is going the way we want this thing to be. Coach DeBoer is a great recruiter. He's a great father of players. He's a great leader of men. He's going to do great.
Only on SportsGrid.
But don't tell anybody. I'm sick of coming here every year and talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, remember a few years ago we were here, people saying, Andy Reid's going to retire. I'm like, no way. When you're riding Seabiscuit, Secretariat, when you're riding a horse that you know can win, who would jump off that?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
My mom, she was a professional ballet dancer. My aunt played professional tennis. My dad played football at Pitt when they won a national championship. My sister ran track at Stanford. So it's just kind of in my blood to love all sports. And so I've always obviously loved golf, but it's been nice to kind of branch out a little bit more and get into different sports and different topics and not just always do golf.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in-game live game day here on the grid. Hour number 2 of our 4-hour extravaganza. Scott Wetzel, Joe Madden until 8 p.m. Eastern time. We got NBA, we got hockey, we got college basketball, and we'll continue to take a peek at obviously tomorrow's Super Bowl with some prop plays and everything else over the next 3 hours. Plenty of guests as well. Little NBA news. When we talked about Anthony Davis in a good light, I suppose, earlier the show, 24 points and 13 rebounds at the half or 12 rebounds at the half. And I said there's always the other side of Anthony Davis, right? So the other side is he's got 26 points, 16 rebounds early fourth quarter, so only 2 points in the second half. And apparently he just got injured. I don't know how serious. I don't think, well, I shouldn't say I didn't see the play. I'm just being told that he got hurt. So that's the downside of Anthony Davis, Joe. The good and the bad.
I can't believe he's already hurt in this game. So that is not good, hopefully, for Mavericks fans. He's going to be okay and back out on the court in the next game because we know once AD goes down for a couple of games, how long is he going to be down will be the question mark. But we are seeing Kyrie. He's got those 11 points. So anyone who took Kyrie over 12.5, live number is 15.5. So feeling pretty comfortable with him right now. There's 8 minutes left and change in this game. The Mavericks leading 97-85. Scott, Kyrie's got to get one more basket and go over that for us, right? Come on, Kyrie.
I would think. Yeah, it's a great point. I would even go over 15.5. It's a 10-point game, so it's close enough. There's 8 minutes left, so you got plenty of time. He's going to be having the ball. You don't get the fouling like you get in the NBA, but still, he's going to have the ball, and you might get a cheap, free throw or two at the end of the game. But I would think he's certainly got to get 2 more points for that 12.5 that we talked about. But if it's 15.5 now, I think he gets 5 more points the rest of the way, especially if AD's not in there playing. So PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, I suppose Klay Thompson, but I would say Kyrie's got to be the man. He's going to be controlling the show. So I like the over 15.5. I do. And here's the enigma of the NBA, right? So we're talking Luka in the big trade and AD, with Dallas playing. So no Luka today for the Lakers. We joked about no LeBron for the Lakers, right? They're playing a good team at Indiana, albeit at home, but the Pacers playing great basketball right now. They're a 5.5-point favorite. You know what the score is, Joe? Midway through the second quarter, about 4 minutes left to go in the second quarter. 57-34 Lakers with no LeBron and no Luka and obviously no, AD. They're playing a good team that's playing good, and they're winning by 22 points, 57-35. I mean, good luck trying to figure out the NBA. Good luck.
Well, exactly. Look at Tyrese Halliburton, 0 assists. Not a single assist on the board in this game so far. We look at Austin Reeves. He does have 3 assists. His live number, 6 is minus 650. So you can't even touch that. I just want to look at those points right now. Halliburton has 3 points on the board. I'm interested in seeing what Austin Reeves has. So he has 16 points, Scott. His number, we were getting at 30 plus points at like minus 110. It's now 30 plus points at minus 135. So he's in range. Wow. He probably will hit that 30 plus points, but crazy to see that Tyrese Halliburton hasn't got a single assist on the board so far in this game. Okay. Like, come on, what is he doing out there?
I mean, the other thing also with Reeves is, listen, he's a nice player, but he averages 18 points a game. I mean, I know that's with LeBron and when AD was there playing, I get that, but to have to go from 18 points a game to 30, as we discussed, was just like, if, you want to bump it up to 22, 23, maybe 24, 5, 6 points over your average, okay. They were bumping it up 12 points over his average, and yet he's got 16 already. And they're in the first half. I mean, he's on pace for 30 plus. It's amazing. You just don't generally get 40? That big of a jump.
If he's going to hit 40, it was plus 800. They locked it up, though. Oh, yeah, it's still plus 800. Wow.
You think he's going to go for 40? I mean, if he's going for 30, why stop there, right? Yeah, right? Might be worth some coffee money. Yeah, you got to worry about the blowout, him being yanked, but I don't think they would do that, without LeBron and without. I mean, I don't think they got to keep somebody in there, just because we've seen crazy comebacks. So maybe a little sprinkle on 35. How about 35? Won't get too greedy. 35 is plus 250. Wow, goes from 250 to 750. That's a big jump. Yeah, if we're gonna do it, let's just go for the 40. Why not?
Let's go big, Scott. We need to build that bank, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we win today. We'll no doubt lose tomorrow. So, let's go Austin Reeves, 40 points. Why not?
Okay, he's hit 2 threes so far.
Okay. And what was his number? 3.5?
It was 4 plus 3s is where we had to go. And it was like right around minus 114. Now 4 plus 3s is minus 150. If you want to take him for 5 plus 3s, that's still only at plus 200. So if we're thinking he's going to get 35 plus points, 40 plus points, he should hit those 3s, but I would rather just take the points over hitting the 3s.
Yeah. Yeah, either one is pretty good. I'd be surprised if he got to 40 anyway. 30 maybe not, but if he got to 40, he's going to get those 3s, I would think for sure. So Bruins still up 2-1. So much for the over 7.5 that I'd suggested. Although it's up to 6.5 now. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? 2-1 midway through the second period. So they had no more scoring to close out the first, and then so far no scoring to first 10 minutes of this second period. Boston minus 235, which is interesting because that was down to minus 170 in the first period, but less time. So they bumped it over to 2-1. And then Vegas plus 180. So I had a bad, I'm a Bruins fan, so I won't go against them. And I had Boston to begin the game. But, plus 180 down 1 goal, and you got half the game left is not a bad little number, Joe.
Well, Vegas. Especially if you took Boston straight up on the money line coming in, right? Because if you had them with that money coming in, then you're able to then get Vegas here on the money line at plus 180. It's a perfect hedging spot for this game. But I do think Boston ends up walking away with the win. Maybe a little puck luck, though. You know anything can happen in hockey. And that's the scary thing, Scott, right? That puck just bounces a funny way in front of the net, and then it finds the back of it. Do you think this one has a possibility of going to OT? These two teams are playing tight right now. It's a physical game. Yeah. The overtime bet in this one is coming in at plus 230 live right now. It was plus 310 going into this game.
That's not bad, 230. You're halfway through. You got 2 low-scoring teams, or at least Boston is anyway. They went through the third period the other night against the Rangers. I watched without a shot on goal. A game in which they lost. Oh, by the way. So it's not even like they were leading the whole time and just, sat on the puck like we've seen teams do. They were trailing about midway through, and they didn't get a shot on goal in the third period. Man, their offense is so bad. So they may not score again. So yeah, that's not a bad little number for an overtime.
Right. But then you saw that game, and correct me if I'm wrong, versus the Ottawa Senators, I believe it was, that they won 6-3. Was it the Ottawa Senators where Pasternak was able to get no, that was versus the Rangers as well. So they had the sudden revenge game versus the Rangers.
Yeah.
Right? Because we saw Pasta with the hat trick in that first game, and JT Miller was able to get the 2 goals for the Rangers. We were live here on the grid, Scott. So we were doing that last Saturday together.
Yeah. So it was kind of a weird did they play someone else in between? The Minnesota. Yeah, they did. They won 3-0 against them. So it was Rangers at home, Minnesota at home, and then Rangers on the road, and then back home for Vegas. So, but they can't score. They've scored more than 3 goals, or 3 goals or more even. Once in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Twice in 8 games. Yeah, their offense is just not there. It's just not there. So, all right, quick little break. We'll come back. Justin Perry, ShotQualityBets.com will join us. We'll do some college basketball with him, maybe take a peek at the Super Bowl, get some thoughts. Also, he's a baseball writer at PitcherList.com. I want to ask him about the Dodgers. Well, that's one of them.
Even the great Nick Saban had to put his team together to do it his way. We know Coach Ryan's coming in to come run the offense, who was his right-hand man, a good friend of his at UW. And, now he's coming in. Everything is going the way we want this thing to be. Coach DeBoer is a great recruiter. He's a great father of players. He's a great leader of men. He's going to do great.
Only on SportsGrid.
But don't tell anybody. I'm sick of coming here every year and talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, remember a few years ago we were here, people saying, Andy Reid's going to retire. I'm like, no way. When you're riding Seabiscuit, Secretariat, when you're riding a horse that you know can win, who would jump off that?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
My mom, she was a professional ballet dancer. My aunt played professional tennis. My dad played football at Pitt when they won a national championship. My sister ran track at Stanford. So it's just kind of in my blood to love all sports. And so I've always obviously loved golf, but it's been nice to kind of branch out a little bit more and get into different sports and different topics and not just always do golf.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, hour number 2. Checking out everything that's happened, a little hockey, a little NBA, a little college basketball, a little Super Bowl talk as well. And maybe even some baseball talk with the next guest who does write, fantasy baseball writer for PitcherList.com. He's at Hoops HQ. He's got ShotQualityBets.com. He's got more jobs than I'll give you a 70s expression, then Carter has pills. I know who's Carter. It's an old pharmaceutical company. Anyway, Justin Perry joins us now. What's going on, Justin? How are you today?
Scott, Joe, thank you so much for having me on the show. It is a massively busy college basketball day. I feel like I haven't slept in 48 hours, but that's the fun of it. Only 4 more weekends like this left, guys. So got to enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And looking at those earlier games that kicked off on the hardwood, was there any that really shocked you out there that you were surprised by either a win or a loss, Justin?
I was pretty impressed with how Michigan State looked in that game, coming back from a big 50-point half allowed to Oregon, essentially shut the door, blasted their way back into the game, covered the line, the -8 that felt about as dead on arrival as you could get. So that was a big one. A lot of discussion about Tom Izzo maybe being done before that game, and 10 minutes had elapsed. So, great win for them. I think they have a couple special players. They didn't even have fears for that game. So I do think that the ceiling is very high for that team. They are really efficient at the rim, at the free throw line. If they can get some of those threes to fall as well, and the guards keep playing as well as they do, a very interesting Final Four potential there. So that one definitely stuck out. And then Vanderbilt coming back, getting that win against Texas is a big one. I took a little 85-1 sprinkle on Vandy to make the Final Four a week ago. Feeling pretty good about it. I do think they're still a little slept on. I wouldn't be shocked to see them maybe, beat some maybe blue blood type teams like a Texas, someone maybe that's been around longer that might get some public support. But Vandy's kind of new age. They're here. They're for real. They've played some very good teams in the SEC, very close, and they should be a tough out in March.
Yeah, we were joking about that, whether it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Justin. When's the last time, if ever, Vanderbilt sports beat Alabama in football? Alabama regarded as, whether you like them or not, the football name, right? And Kentucky in basketball, right? In the same year. I mean, that stuff just doesn't happen. And it's actually happened.
No.
This season with Vandy. So talk about shockers. Although I don't really label this a shocker. I really don't. Joe and I talked about this. Florida has great trends, 17-3 against the spread last 20, 15-5 against Auburn. They're at Auburn where they've won 12 straight at home, but lo and behold, Florida up 54-43, 17 minutes, a lot of time left second half. A line that was once 9.5 to start. I think it bumped all the way up to 13.5. It's down to 5.5 now, with Florida actually being favored.
Yeah, I mean, Walter Clayton having himself a game, 16 points right now, 54-43, like you said. He's expected to have 8. So he's absolutely putting the team on his back. You're also seeing a couple other bigger performances, but make no mistake, this is the Walter Clayton game. This is also Johni Broome a little cold. He has an expectation of 11 points only at 8. So expect Auburn to get back into this one. I expect it to close a little closer. I don't hate getting in on Auburn here. They should, get Florida to start missing some shots. This is just an absolute clinic, a shooting clinic from Florida right now, which is, I don't think, what anyone expected, but maybe starting to show a little, holes in the armor for Auburn. We'll see the same thing. I think maybe today with Clemson and Duke, are these number 1 seeds, these clear-cut 350-1 to win it all, to favor to make the Final Four teams, are they really impervious like that? Should they really carry those odds? I tend to think no, just because of how crazy basketball is, but market really likes them. They are good, and if games go as expected, this would be essentially a tight game with Florida right now, giving Auburn plenty of time to pull away. But instead, they have to get back into the lead and try to salvage a win. I don't know that they win. I think that line is pretty accurate. 5-point win for Florida feels pretty spot on.
Yeah, and if you did take Auburn plus 255, but I'm with you. I just think this Florida team has what it takes to be able to get the win tonight, leading here 57-43. Now, Missouri has made a comeback here in the second half. They went into the half down in this game, coming into the game as a 4.5-point favorite. At the half, they were a 4.5-point dog, and they were plus 200 on the money line. Now they're up in this game, 56-51. Can Missouri hold on to this lead versus Texas A&M?
Oh, yeah, I think this is their game to lose. They actually were expected to be winning this game by 1 at the half. Instead, we're down 9. So this was a big spot for our advanced metrics, keying in on the location and the openness of the shots and the skill of the players who take them at those specific shots. So that's kind of what sets the shot quality data that I use apart from everything else, is that it knows how good every player taking every shot is in the expectation. So right now, expected score is a 16-point lead for Missouri. They've been cold all game, but are still ahead by 5. A hot performance out of the gate for Texas A&M has now led to a massive slowdown. They're losing the second half by 14 points, and there's still 7 minutes left. I expect Missouri to continue to press. They are athletic. They create problems. I like this team a lot. Another team, I think, 20 to top 40 middle of the pack here in college basketball this year is great. I think the tournament's going to be super fun, and Missouri is one of the reasons why.
All right, let me throw one more at you before maybe we touch on some of the games later on tonight. Although Joe can ask about a game in progress if she wants. North Carolina up 3 against Pittsburgh. I'm ready to write off North Carolina. They are winning a little bit, laying 4.5, over under 150.5, 15 minutes left.
Yeah, I took North Carolina today. I talked a little bit about it this week. I do think that Pittsburgh has continued to be overrated even amongst some of their bad results. I think they should be even a little bit worse. And both teams are absolutely shooting the lights out right now. I mean, UNC coming out in the start of the half and has scored 12 points on 6 shots. So I don't really know if you can get much hotter. A little bit worse for Pitt, but not far behind. So this is a spot where I think not only you can get North Carolina to pull away, but also maybe the game to slow down and get a little bit more contested. A live under here is definitely something that should have value as these teams fight for this big win that could determine who makes the bubble or off the bubble and who loses out come March.
Talk with Justin Perry. Check him out, shotqualitybets.com, fantasy baseball writer at pitcherlist.com. We'll take a break, and we'll get some thoughts from Justin on some of the games later on tonight, and maybe even throw a baseball question at him. In-game live game day here on the Grid.
Even the great Nick Saban had to put his team together to do it his way. We know Coach Ryan's coming in to come run the offense, who was his right-hand man, a good friend of his at UW. And, now he's coming in. Everything is going the way we want this thing to be. Coach DeBoer is a great recruiter. He's a great father of players. He's a great leader of men. He's going to do great.
Only on SportsGrid.
But don't tell anybody. I'm sick of coming here every year and talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, remember a few years ago we were here, people saying, Andy Reid's going to retire. I'm like, no way. When you're riding Seabiscuit, Secretariat, when you're riding a horse that you know can win, who would jump off that?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
My mom, she was a professional ballet dancer. My aunt played professional tennis. My dad played football at Pitt when they won a national championship. My sister ran track at Stanford. So it's just kind of in my blood to love all sports. And so I've always obviously loved golf, but it's been nice to kind of branch out a little bit more and get into different sports and different topics and not just always do golf.
Only on SportsGrid.
welcome back in Game Live. Game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, hour number 2. Talk with Justin Perry from ShotQualityBets.com. Pitcher list, Hoops HQ. We'll do a little baseball talk with him, but some huge slate of college basketball games, Justin, for later on tonight, including the Dookie Pukies at Clemson. Tigers are actually pretty good at home. Do they get the win?
Yeah.
More importantly, do they get the cover, or is this another typical Duke win?
I really hesitated at this one. It's going to be the game to watch because I think this is probably one of those spots where Duke could stumble. But I do think they're just that good where you probably want to continue to, stay away or just watch and wait for them to get down and see how Cooper Flagg is dealing with it. I do think the Duke show is more likely to continue to roll than not. I mean, Cooper Flagg is really that player. It's very hard to quantify him, and I don't know how Clemson's going to deal with him. So if he takes over the game, Duke covers. If they can deny him the ball and maybe force it out of his hands, maybe they got a chance. But I don't think they're winning. Again, it would take like a real disaster for Duke to lose this game. Some chance for sure, but the 6-point line feels a little bit on the shorter side for me. I lean towards Duke, but I'm not betting this one tonight.
Yeah, definitely going to be a test here for Duke and Cooper Flagg to see how he can come out. What games do you really have circled here? We have Alabama and Arkansas, Ole Miss and LSU, or is there something else that is going to make your card?
So I'm going with top of the hour here. I got a big play on Charleston. I've been going against Elon for a while now. Consider them to be a bit overpriced. So this will be an interesting one for me. And then if you'd like to stay, maybe in the more of the Power 5, I like Mississippi State here. They're a very underrated team per the shot quality metrics. I actually just placed a bet on them to make the Final Four as well. I think they have the right type of, guard play from Hubbard and everyone else kind of contributes at a high rate too. Essentially just always defensive, always attacking the rim, always rebounding. Going to be tough for a lot of teams to deal with that. And so I'm betting on them tonight for similar reasons. I also think Iona is a little bit underpriced going up to Marist, who just took a pretty crazy loss against Fairfield, that buzzer beater for Fairfield. But the real takeaway is that they kind of looked pretty much even with Fairfield, which was kind of my hypothesis when I played that Fairfield +5 line. And I'll continue riding it. I do think Marist is overvalued here in the MAAC. Iona going on the road, not a big trip up to Poughkeepsie. So not exactly going to be one of the dreaded Buffalo travel spots out of the MAC. I do like that Iona spot. And then I think a little bit of a hold your nose spot with Rio Grande, UTRGV. That they've been tough. They've been tough to stomach and swallow the line. They just keep losing. But those threes, the profile, the shots they take, I think they could win this one outright as a dog. Not exactly going against the stiffest competition and kind of getting that price reflective of how poorly they played this season rather than their potential and what they bring to every single game. So that's where you can find a bit of an edge.
Mm-hmm. How about Gonzaga and Pacific? Maybe I wrote it down wrong, but I thought Gonzaga was a 20.5-point road favorite. And then I looked back, 2 hours later, and it shot up to 25.5. Did I just write the 20.5 wrong? Do you know anything about that game? Zags leading 25.5 Pacific.
Maybe you did. I'm seeing an open at 25, but maybe there was something because the total opened 155 and is now at 150. Maybe it was like a really early open rather than like a widely available one. Ken Pom numbers all the way up at 23. So, I could see it, especially with the home team getting some love. I could see the open being at 21, 20.5, and then absolutely getting steamed up. I do think this is too big of a number. I don't know if anyone's been really watching Gonzaga all season or watching Pacific, but both these teams are going in the right direction that you want to take for a bet when you're taking a large underdog. I do think Gonzaga has the potential, but Pacific's been pretty fiery all season. We rate them in the top 250, pretty different than Ken Pom, who has them right outside his top 300. That's, a good 3 points every 100 possessions. So consider a good 2.5 point edge on Pacific, and then probably at least a point and a half over there with Gonzaga. You're getting a lot of market fade as well. If you trust the Ken Pom number at 23 and a half, you're getting 25. I think there's more than enough here of a reason to get that big number on Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, if you like situational spots, how about Loyola Marymount against San Fran? We only got about 10, 15 seconds, but San Fran coming up the court storming win against St. Mary's last time out.
Yeah, and then, the other side is that Marymount just played Gonzaga. So I do like that one. I think you get maybe a little bit of the discount. If you can get anything around like 3 or 4 points, I think you want to snag it.
There you go, man. Great job. Do appreciate it. Justin Perry. We'll do it again soon. Justin, thanks.
Even the great Nick Saban had to put his team together to do it his way. We know Coach Ryan's coming in to come run the offense, who was his right-hand man, a good friend of his at UW. And, now he's coming in. Everything is going the way we want this thing to be. Coach DeBoer is a great recruiter. He's a great father of players. He's a great leader of men. He's going to do great.
Only on SportsGrid.
But don't tell anybody. I'm sick of coming here every year and talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, remember a few years ago we were here, people saying, Andy Reid's going to retire. I'm like, no way. When you're riding Seabiscuit, Secretariat, when you're riding a horse that you know can win, who would jump off that?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
My mom, she was a professional ballet dancer. My aunt played professional tennis. My dad played football at Pitt when they won a national championship. My sister ran track at Stanford. So it's just kind of in my blood to love all sports. And so I've always obviously loved golf, but it's been nice to kind of branch out a little bit more and get into different sports and different topics and not just always do golf.
Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back. In-game live game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, hour number 2. Thanks again, Justin Perry, for joining us there, giving us some college basketball winners. Little baseball. Actually, we didn't get a chance to throw in the baseball question. It was a short question, but I wanted to ask him about the Dodgers and some of the free agents that are still out there. But next time for sure. So big upset happening. Not really big, but it's number 1, right? So, and they were a 9.5-point favorite. So in that essence, it is big. But number 1 Auburn losing to number 6 Florida, 68-53. It's not so much, Joe, to me that they're losing, and you still have 12 minutes left. They're down double digits, and they're at home. This is not just a typical road game where you're going to get blown out. This team's won 12 straight at home. They're down 15. They're getting 9.5. Over under is 175.5. I would think somewhere along the line Auburn's going to make a run, right? I mean, that's a pretty good number, 9.5 for a team that was favored by 9.5, and probably that was overmatched. It shouldn't have been that high. I think, like I said, down 15. I get it. You got a long ways to go before you start covering that 9.5. But I'd be surprised with 12.5 minutes left, almost 13 minutes left, if Auburn didn't make a run somewhere along the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Plus 9.5. It's so many points that you can grab them there in that one. But I think also if you're looking at that, you'd look at the over 177.5, because what we're seeing out of Auburn right now is that Florida is having their way offensively. They're able to get those points on the board, and Auburn's allowing them to win some of those rebounding under the net and have those second chances. So I do think this one can go over the 177.5. I think Florida continues to put the points on the board as they lead this one 68 48 to 53. But because of that, I also like the plus 9.5 for Auburn. I think we're going to see them do their share of the points.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in right now. If they go down, they go down. Let me find it here again. There you go, 9.5. Boom, put that in, and there you go. How about that? No issues, surprisingly enough. What was the other one that was going to? Houston. Didn't really talk too much about Houston today. They were big favorites over Colorado, which stinks, and they're only leading by 3. 8.5 minutes, almost 9 minutes left. Game's on a pace to go under, not by a lot, but by a little. 48 to 45. It's down to 7.5. If I can get Houston under, well, ideally under 5.5. If I could get Houston laying 4.5, Joe, Colorado was 0-10 in conference play. I mean, they're just awful. I'm thinking somewhere along the line, Houston's got to end up pulling away. So I don't want to lay 7.5, 5.5 or less is my goal in this contest with 8 minutes left, 8.5 left.
I hate seeing where this one's at, Scott. I like the 13.5 with Houston coming into this one, expecting them to win and cover, and this one to go under that total. So the under is looking in a good position. I took it under the 127.5 that it was at close, but yeah, but here I have to believe Houston with 8 minutes and 26 seconds left. Their defense has to turn it on here versus Colorado, and they need to get these baskets in the net. I just can't believe that they've only got 48 points right now. I expected them to win this kind of like 65, 69, kind of maybe even 75 points out there, right? Like high 60s, mid 70s. I need more out of them in this one.
Yeah, I'd shortchange Colorado. They're 0-11, not 0-10 in the Big 12. Now, it's amazing what home court can do, right? I mean, Houston's one of the best teams in college basketball. They're ranked in the top 10, 5 in the AP poll, if you buy into that, right? But top 10 ranked team. They're 18-4, 10-1 in conference play. They're taking on a Colorado team that's 9-13 overall, 0-11, and here we are in a 3-point game. Well into the game with 8 minutes left to go. It's amazing. I think that's how the NCAA tournament's going to be. I know we kind of say that every single year, but I think there are going to be so many upsets. I think all these, supposed great teams, I just don't think they are great. I think they're very good, Auburn or Florida or Houston or whoever. I just don't see that many super duper stars, that really should make that team that much better than everybody else. So,
yeah.
All right, so my goal, let's see if I can get that down to 5.5. If it stays this way, we take a couple more minutes off the clock, then maybe it will go a little bit lower. But for now, I'm going to lay you off. I had the under 2, Joe. It's down to 124.5. So that's looking halfway decent from the 127.5. Nowhere where I would want to middle it, anything along those lines, but still. UCLA by 21 over Penn State. Excuse me, 5 minutes left to go there. That's not a contest. Where is the Missouri one? There you go. So A&M is now leading Missouri 61-60. 3 minutes left to go. Under's looking pretty good. Gave out that out to the boys on the podcast. So that should be in the bag with 3 minutes left. 121. We got 20 points to give, barring overtime. And now you got to let pick them. Actually, now Missouri's plus 150. So I'm thinking Texas A&M probably hit a bucket here. But 2:45 left to go in that game.
Yeah, nice tight game. I'm glad we both jumped on Missouri to come back in that second half. So fingers crossed, Scott, that they're able to pull off the win. Did you take any overtime bets? Because we are seeing Boston College and a Syracuse in overtime right now. Right now, Boston College leading this one 81-76 over Syracuse. That 3 minutes and change left in this game. Spread of 3.5. I wish I'd taken this one to OT. I didn't expect it to be this tight right now. Boston College, a 3.5 point favorite up, 81-76. What did you do in this one, if anything, Scott?
I didn't, because it's Syracuse. So I'm here in New York, so I couldn't bet it.
Right. So I get Syracuse, but don't get Rutgers. How does that make any sense?
Yeah. You would have Rutgers, is Rutgers, I don't think Rutgers is playing today, but you just don't get any Rutgers games. And you're in Calgary, Canada, and you don't get Rutgers. I mean, how, I don't even, I can't find any connection at all. it's not like you're near the conference that they play in or near the state or, I mean, you're 3,000 miles away. Why would you not get Rutgers games? That is the most bizarre thing, right?
I don't know. It's the weirdest thing ever because I get everyone else, right? It's only Rutgers, only team, college football, college basketball.
Look and see if you have St. Peter's, because that's another New Jersey school. St. Peter's plays tonight. Let me give you the time because there's 1,000 games. And I'm just curious to see. Maybe it's a New Jersey thing. St. Peter's plays. Maybe they don't play. They played the other day. Hold on. Let me give you a Jersey school here. Let me scroll. There's got to be another Jersey school. Seton Hall, maybe?
I know I've got Seton Hall before. So because I have, I've had them before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Weirdest thing, right?
Yeah. That's so strange. Let me go to Big East real quickly. Big East, Seton Hall. No, they played already. Let me go to St. Peter's, the MAC. I don't think St. Peter's plays today. Oh, they did earlier. They lost another over for St. Peter's. I'm done with my St. Peter's unders. 84-83. Of course, that game went to overtime. Yeah, all right. So I don't have any more Jersey schools in action that we could test that out. But if you said you see Seton Hall games, then it's got to be a Rutgers thing versus a New Jersey thing.
They just don't want to take my money on Rutgers, right? I don't know why.
Yeah. Maybe there's some behind-the-scenes connection in Calgary, a big Calgary Rutgers booster or something, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Auburn down 14. Nothing happening there.
Wow.
North Carolina, Pittsburgh tied at 51. Over-under is 140.5. You know, we're talking with Justin off the air about how we thought this might be like an elimination game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, winner stays alive realistically for that large bid. Losers probably all but done. I think North Carolina is all but done. Outside of them being North Carolina, unless they went on some remarkable tear, they're not making the NCAA tournament this year. So, I know. We got to take a break here. But see if you have in-game live Towson versus Monda. Second half. See if you can find that one. That's what you're watching. In-game live. We're just here on the grid.
Best dressed guy, let me tell you, next to me in terms of Radio Row. I want to get your thoughts quickly on the game, Philly and KC. How do you see it playing out?
You know, obviously you got Patrick Mahomes, who just finds a way to win. Then you got on the other side of the table an alien, and Barkley. I mean, he's had an incredible year.
Right.
I think whoever has the balls last is going to win the football game.
Only on SportsGrid.
I have no idea how to categorize what Mavericks GM Nico Harrison pulled off, Joe. All I know is that he shipped off Luka Doncic without telling Luka about it.
If you thought conditioning was a problem for Luka, wait until you get a load of Anthony Davis tripping over air and then missing 40 games because he's like Glass Joe's.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
welcome back in Game Live. Game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, hour number 2. We got SGPs coming up here in a little bit. Sports Millions right around the corner as well. But I will say, I just saw on Twitter, Joe, the Anthony Davis injury. And it's a classic Anthony Davis injury. He's pretending to guard somebody. He slides in the lane 2, maybe 3 steps and just goes down to the ground. No one hit him. No one touched him. No one breathed on him. He's holding his groin. So, I'm guessing it's a stomach, lower, a groin injury, which who knows how long that could be, right? It's just typical Anthony Davis. It really is. Welcome to AD, Dallas Maverick fans. Nice trade.
That's brutal, right? That really is.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the guy to get injured in that way, where he just was out there on the court and his leg just went one way and he pulled something just not great to see. So I feel for him. I feel for the Dallas Mavericks and the fans that were excited to see him healthy in this game and have a big day. And everyone who jumped on his live props, I feel for you too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Did he, just out of curiosity, before we get to SGP, I think he only had the 2 points, right? He had 26 points, so he didn't come close to. I wonder if he even got his original number. I didn't check to see because I didn't know he was playing today. I would have thought it would have been right around 26, 24, 25, 26. I don't think it would have been 27. But I wonder if he even hit. Can you imagine that? Talk about a bad beat. The dude goes for 24 in the first half, and you're sitting at maybe 27 over, and he doesn't get it because he goes down to an injury. I'm pretty sure he finished with 26, right? Let me just double check. That would really suck. Welcome to gambling. I mean, it is true. It is never over until it is over. So let me go to that.
We would
Anthony
be laughing
Davis
after the first quarter, right? Just like out there, like we're cashing big. I would have jumped back in if I had him. That's crazy.
26 points. Dallas does end up winning 116 to 105, so game is over. All right, little SGP, same game parlay time. All right, I'll go first here, Joe. I'm going to use a college basketball game, which I generally don't do because here in New York they don't offer player props. But I put together a halfway decent one. This starts top of the hour, so I like Illinois laying 3.5. We're going to move the line down against Minnesota. They're 6.5-point road favorites. Don't want to do that. Don't want to put them in a money line. I think they win by 4, 5, 6 points, maybe even more. So I'll adjust it down to 3.5 minus 188 against Minnesota, alt spread. Love the over 145.5 in the game. I'll give you some monster over trends both teams have here. I threw in the no overtime at minus 40 to 1. It actually bumped it up, halfway decent amount, believe it or not. I like Illinois team total over 79.5 points. I used the adjusted line on that one at plus 148. I do think they get to 80. I think the winning team, I think this has got like 82, 75 written all over it. And because of that, I'm going to go Minnesota over 72.5 points adjusted line at plus 138. So put it all together, and you got a nice little 572 parlay. It might pay even more than that because I put that in and then put it in again just to have the numbers updated. Because I'm a little curious to see what whether they go down or they go up. And it was over 6 to 1. So, but we'll call it as it is. Plus 5 and change for over Illinois and or for the Illinois game against Minnesota. Two teams 10-5 over Minnesota. And Minnesota's on a 6-0 over run, and in the last 6 meetings, 5-1 over. So that's why I wanted to find some over props that you could use to bump up your parlay, and we found that with the team totals. And a nice little 6-1 parlay, Joe. What about you?
Yeah, I love where you're going. 6 to 1 is a great day at the office, Scott. So keeping my fingers crossed for you in that. And I'm going to go to the ice. I'm looking at the matchup here between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Toronto has been nice and strong out there on the road, winning their last 3. They're coming off that win versus the Seattle Kraken 3-1. They were able to beat as well Calgary and Edmonton in that Alberta double-double, and I look for them to continue to roll here. Facing up against Demko and the Vancouver Canucks, I do think they will have the ability to get the win. So I've got a 3-legger in this one. Now, we know Toronto normally always juiced on that money line and rolling into Vancouver. They're a minus 137 favorite, but I do think it's worth putting inside this parlay. The Vancouver Canucks have been very inconsistent at home, and they're a team I can't trust at home. Now 4th in the Pacific, but 10-7 at home this season. And the road record here for Toronto, nice and strong, 14-8-2. So I will take them for the first leg. Money line here. They already won that last meeting 3-2. They have lost the last 7 in Vancouver, but I think that streak is broken tonight. I'm then going to look at William Nylander to find the back of the net. William Nylander at plus 175 for the anytime goal. We know how strong he is on this team, and I do think he should be able to come out nice in this one and hit Demko. While Demko's been strong as of late, he's kind of a bend until he breaks goaltender out there for me, and I do think Nylander should be able to hit him in the top corner. And then I'm going to look at Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews being strong at getting those shots on goal. I'll take him for 4+ shots on goal in this game. And when you add all 3 of these legs together, 5-1. It's coming in at plus 583, Scott.
All right, that's not too bad. Ooh, beautiful. Hold on to it, fellas. Oh, yes. Texas A&M, sorry, Joe. Texas A&M just hit a 3-pointer with 1.8 seconds left to break a tie. So it's 67-64. That's good because I got the under, and we all know unders go to die in overtime. So barring a miracle, I won't say a miracle, but barring another shot, Auburn or Missouri rather with a timeout here. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they don't go to overtime. So that's not bad. I don't want to rain on your parade, but you did say it. 0-7. Last 7 trips to Vancouver, and I will tell you 10-1 last 11 at home against Toronto. So Toronto's playing great on the road. Overall 9-2, as you mentioned, last 11. So not exactly sure why would Vancouver have that kind of mastery over Toronto.
I don't know, right? You look at these teams and it makes you shake your head how some have the number over others. But I'm looking here and at the end of the day, I just don't trust this Vancouver team at home. They've won their last 2. And yeah, are you impressed that they beat the Sharks 2-1 in OT? I'm not.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, Sports Millions picks coming up next.
Do we have a fantasy star on our hands here, George? Here is the question with Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. A lot of folks went into the fantasy season saying, hey, look, maybe this isn't Anthony Richardson, but it could be the next best thing. I'm here to tell you, I don't know. I'm sort of feeling like Daniels could be better than Anthony Richardson.
I don't know if I'm going to go there yet, all right? But I think he's in the conversation, yeah. What did we hear at draft time? A lot of people wanted a quarterback who could move. Right, you don't want the guy who's going to take 5-7 steps and throw the football anymore because you want that additional rushing yards. You get 50, 60 yards, that's a touchdown. Right, that's why Josh Allen is so valuable. Lamar Jackson is so valuable. Right, you go up and down. Jalen Hurts. You go up and down here. I think Daniels is going to be a good quarterback. I think Washington got their guy, and he can throw the football too. We know McLaurin's a really good wide receiver. It may not be much else there. We'll see what McCaffrey can be. Luke McCaffrey can be there in time. But I do have hope for him. I think at season's end he's going to be a quarterback 1. It may be a low end quarterback 1, but a quarterback 1 nonetheless.
Yeah, I was really impressed watching him in that game. All right, now Anthony Richardson, look, he's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big fantasy year. There's no question about it. I don't know about the long-term viability here. And look, give him credit. He hung in there with the Houston Texans. My fear for him, George, is that when you go back and you watch film, if you protect the deep ball against Richardson, he could hurt you with his legs. And that may be where all of his fantasy value is coming from. I cannot see him throwing 2 70-yard bombs like he did again.
That should come in time, right? Practice time. I think he will get better here. I think Richardson's going to be fine. Does need to learn how to avoid hits. All right. Once again, that hit. Remember that hit from Tua last night? He initiated it. Slide. The rules are made for you not to get hit. Take advantage of them.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Joe closing out hour number 2 of our 4-hour extravaganza. As we always do at this time on Saturdays, time for our Sports Millions plays. Go to their website, sportsmillions.com. So we need to find some higher or lower stats. Player props. We use the National Hockey League, Joe. Here's where I'm thinking, and this kind of pertains to my Black Cloud, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But first up, I love the Toronto-Vancouver matchup. It is one-sided. You used it for your SGPs. It's kind of funny how we both, chose the same game for different things here. But still, it should be a great game, right? Toronto playing well, Vancouver and everything else. So I was looking at Austin Matthews. If you're going to look Toronto, who are you going to look to? Austin Matthews. So I'm thinking, how can I, what's the best number I can get? Whether it's a goal, whether it's a point, whether it's shots on goal. But he has done very well against Vancouver, which is weird when you consider Vancouver's record, which is pretty good against Toronto. Dude's got 18 goals and 5 assists in 24 games. He's averaging basically, almost anyway, a goal a game, which is just crazy when you think about it. He's got the 5 assists, so he has 23 points in 24 games. He's a +8 in the plus-minus rating. So now I just got to figure out, is it going to be the goal? Is it going to be the assist? Is it going to be the shot on goal? But I'm, before I isolate it and pinpoint it down, I'm looking Austin Matthews tonight against Vancouver. What about you?
Okay, I understand exactly why you're looking at him because, like we said, I am riding with him tonight as well. But I'm going to turn for my Sports Millions pick'ems to the Islanders versus the Minnesota Wild. Now, I do think we've got a great battle between these two teams, and I'm going to circle the goaltender here, Gustafsson, for the Minnesota Wild. We're looking over on Sports Millions at a higher or lower of 25.5 for his save shots on goal, and I have to take him higher than the 25.5 save shots on goal. We're seeing the Islanders come in here on the second night of a back-to-back, and I do think they come out strong in the way of getting those shots. We know there's injuries on both sides, and we look at Gustafsson, and we look at what Gustafsson has been able to do versus Isles. Now, he's played 3 games versus Isles. In his very first versus them, he was lit up. But in those last 2 games, we have seen him very strong between the pipes. In the second game versus the Isles, he did stop 19 of 20. So we didn't get enough shots on goal for him to go higher than that number. But you look at the last game versus the Islanders were able to put up 40 shots on him. He saved 39 of those shots. I really do feel that Gustafsson can go higher than the 25.5 shots on goal. We know this Islanders team has been playing better as of late. Sorokin will be in goal again for them tonight, which is interesting. With the goaltending injuries over there, the Isles have to play him on the second night of a back-to-back. So we're going to see that tired legs out of Sorokin as well as the defense. But I think offensively, this team will have to try to keep pace with the Minnesota Wild. And I don't think they can get past Gustafsson. So give me Gustafsson here at the Minnesota Wild for my Sports Millions pick'em, Scott, higher than 25.5 save shots on goal.
All right. Yeah, that is interesting. They're going to go back to Sorokin. I guess they have to. After the last kid that we had last weekend, they played a game up. I think it was 6 goals when everything was said and done to Florida. So I like it. And maybe even if they Sports Millions offers the games over 5 higher than 5.5, but you'll go with the saves. As I always like to say, right? Whether it's hockey, whether it's the NBA. No one plays defense on Friday and especially Saturday nights. So I like that one a lot. I was looking at the Matthews and his numbers, shots on goal. 6 shots on goal his last game. Only 3 the time before that in an easy 6-3 win over Calgary. So it wasn't like high intense. 7, 6, 1, 6, 5. So he's had higher than 3.5 in 5 of his last 7 games. So he's on fire. So that just reaffirms my, desire to use Austin Matthews. And then you look at his numbers against Vancouver. And I said it before with the 18 goals, right? How about shots on goal? Again, the number is 3.5, so we need to get to 4. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 4, 2, 5, 5, 7, 5, 5, 7, 8. He's had 4 shots or more in 18 of his 23 games. So Austin Matthews, higher 3.5 shots on goal tonight as Toronto takes on the Vancouver Canucks. Joe's going to go with Gustafson higher, 25.5 saves. Our Sports Millions pick of the night. It's the winner.